And then upon planting it, when you go to loot it, you'll get 2 barley, and even though you planted 1. And barley being a grain, you will just use the barley again to plant more barley. There's no seed plant that you need. Alright, welcome back. Citizens one and all, we're back with more Valheim. We're going to go through a list of top 10 things you need to know about farming. And we're going to start off with, of course, to farm, you need to have a forge. You need to make a cultivator for 5 core wood and 5 bronze. From there, once you have the cultivator, right-click is going to show you everything you can make. You can cultivate, you can plant grass, plant turnips or turnip seed plants, you can plant carrots, you can plant seed carrot plants. Then later on in the plains, you can plant barley, flax, and then 3 different types of trees currently. So we're going to continue on from here, and we're going to talk through a bunch of different things that I've learned now playing Valheim for the past week. We're going to talk through all of that, what I've learned about farming, what I've learned about spacing, and so on and so forth. So let's do it. Right, so number 2, let's talk about carrots. You can plant carrots with the cultivator. They will take 4 in-game days to grow. Beyond that, you can make carrot soup with them. You can use them to tame boars. And then alternatively as well, you can also plant the seed carrots, which you'll learn that for the first time after you harvest the actual carrot plant. And to initially find carrot seeds, you will find these out in the Black Forest. Alright, number 3, we're going to talk about turnips. You can plant turnips. Once you find the seeds, typically you can find these seeds in the marsh or swamp, however you refer to it. And then after you get turnips for the first time, you can then plant seed turnips. Alternatively, I think you need 3 turnips for turnip stew, which is a decent mid-game level food. And these can also be fed to boars, to tame boars. Beyond that, they take a similar amount of time as carrots to grow, 3 to 4 game days. That is all you need to know about turnips. Number 4 on the list here, ladies and gentlemen, we have barley. You will initially find barley upon getting to the plains. You can find this growing in fueling villages. You can find it in the chest in fueling villages. And you need to plant it in the plains. It only grows in the plains. The spacing on it does not matter as much as other crops, as you can see here. And then upon planting it, when you go to loot it, you'll get 2 barley, and even though you planted 1. And barley being a grain, you will just use the barley again to plant more barley. There's no seed plant that you need. And beyond that, you will then take the barley to the windmill, and you'll turn it into barley flour, and we'll get into more details on that here in a little bit. Right, number 5 on the list is flax here, ladies and gentlemen. And you get flax very similar to how you get barley. You find it in the fueling villages. Find it growing there, and it is typically ready to be harvested. And again, like barley, you get 2 flax for every 1 planted, and then you would replant 1 of those flax. Flax then in turn is used on the spinning wheel to make cotton thread, which you'll use to make a couple of in-game items. All the black metal weapons, etc. Most all that stuff does require flax. You can also harvest this uniquely if you have the Atagar, I think is how you say it. You can do the spin attack and it'll loot all the flax, or it'll break all the flax, and you can loot it all similar to how you harvest it normally. It'll just knock it all down at once, so that's a cool way to loot it. Let's carry on. Another great piece of advice when growing crops is to definitely fence them in as best you can. This will just keep any animals away from it. As you can see, we have an outer fence already, a stone fence, so we don't necessarily need this wooden fence in addition. But if you're playing and you don't have a base built yet, you definitely are going to want to use some form of fence, be it the palisades, stone walls, or even just the simple stick fence. You're going to want to close up that crop, then just hop over the fence as you need to get your crop out. Keep your crops protected and safe. I personally advise doing a bigger palisade wall or even doing a larger stone wall like you see here, and keep everything safe in your compound, especially when you're going to the plains and growing barley and flax. All right, number 7 on the list, ladies and gentlemen, we have the windmills, and you need the windmills to process the barley, which you'll put it in. The wind does need to be blowing for these to turn, and in turn you will be able to get this turned into barley flour, and then from there, in the crafting area, you're going to be able to make blood pudding, bread, fish wraps, lox meat pie, all the in-game foods. And I believe there's also one fire resist potion. Yes, fire resist potion as well. So wind over time will crush this barley down, and then in turn you can use the barley flour to make all of the very end game recipes. Number 8 here, spacing, and as you can see, I used the stones, the 1x2 stones, to lay a foundation on 2 sides. Then I came back through with the logs to make little 2x2 squares. You can go a bit smaller than this, but I like how this looks. You can either leave this permanently and just like it's a raised garden bed in essence, like you see a lot these days, or if you just want the plants to look good and maybe not even necessarily loot them in any recent time frame, you can then remove all this, and when you remove all this, you'll come up with something about like this. As you can see, it's relatively even, a little bit off on the spacing in some spots, but I did the same over here, and I just wanted this to look good. I wanted it to look uniform. I'm probably never going to loot these. Hopefully nothing ever crawls up the stairs to get this. But it's pretty simple. Once you have the stones down, you start laying the logs, and it'll just fall into place. And these are each 2x2 squares. You can plant and try and center it when you do plant in the middle of each one. I've found it easiest with the turnips. You wind up having issues where it says no room to grow. You will have to remove some of this. Occasionally I'll get that normally on the stone wall. But again, in the long run, this looks great. This is good spacing. And overall, I like how this looks. And it does pretty well for the carrots and the turnips. You don't have to worry about this with the barley or the flax very much. All right, number 9, ladies and gentlemen. Finding carrot seeds in the wild for the first time, you're going to eventually, in the Black Forest, come across a plant that looks like this. These are carrot seeds. Loot them. You get 3. Take them back to your base, plant the 3 carrots, seeds, and then get 3 carrots, then plant the carrots, and then you have 9 seeds, and you're set. You can just go from there. And that is where you find carrot seeds. Alright, and number 10, the ever-elusive turnip seeds within the swamp. I actually had to go to my creative world to find this, but that's besides the point. So these are turnip seeds. Looted in the swamp, gives you 3 turnips. Take it back, make a bunch of little turnip babies, make more turnip seeds using the cultivator, and planting the turnip seed plant, like we had discussed previously. And that is all you need to know about turnips. Alright, and that just about covers it, ladies and gentlemen. That is 10 things you should know, you need to know about farming. Definitely got into a little more detail than we have in the past, so thank you. I enjoyed putting this together. Appreciate your time. Make sure to like, subscribe, and enjoy Valheim.